Hello, everyone. We are so glad that you decided to join us for this educational workshop. My name is Lynn Pullen, and I'm the co-founder of Kindred Beginnings, a family building support community offering a safe, brave space for those navigating the journey to be supported, heard, and validated. If you have any questions about our programs or how we can help better support you, please reach out to me or visit our website. And just thank you. Thank you for making some time to learn more about the 10 principles of intuitive eating, which will help you to break free of the fertility diet cycle. And listen, it's really easy to get caught up in all of the fertility diets, the dairy-free, the full-fat dairy, the gluten-free, the soy-free, the warming foods. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And why do we do it? Because it's something we can control, and we all seek to control on this journey. So please let me introduce Kathleen Schwarz. Kat is a physical therapist, yoga teacher, energy healer, spiritual channel, and passionate anti-diet educator. Her company, Compassionate Healing Services, aims to make high-quality physical and mental wellness services accessible to those most in need, regardless of ability to pay. Her upcoming podcast, Trauma Redefined with Kat and Joe, will be released on the Mental Health News Radio Network soonish, and will explore the relationship between childhood trauma and physical and mental health problems in adulthood. Kat and her partner, Joe Mitch, will offer a fresh perspective on difficult problems such as self-harm, suicidality, substance abuse, and eating disorders. So welcome, Kat. Thank you so much for shattering some of the stigma around foods and diet culture.
Oh, it's something I love to talk about because I can't wait to dismantle it.
I know.
Part of the cog on that wheel. So yeah, and this is such an important topic for people undergoing fertility treatments because there is a lot of pressure to maintain a certain BMI, and there's many problems around that. So we have this kind of misnomer in our culture that thin equals healthy. And where does that come from? The top, right? Our doctors are telling us this, our nutritionists are telling us this, even our registered dietitians. The BMI is very important. It's an accurate indicator of health, except that it's not. The BMI was created in the 1800s by a man named, I believe his last name was Quetelet or something similar. It was originally called the Quetelet Index. It was literally invented to measure the ideal man, in that only white European men were used in the study. And essentially he was a statistician. He wasn't a doctor. This had nothing to do with health. It was an epidemiological measure. And somehow over the 1900s, even though the BMI has only changed once. So somewhere in the 1900s, the U.S. healthcare system adopted this BMI, despite the fact that, again, it has so many limitations in regards to its origins with just using white men. How can a measure that only uses white men, that only has taken into account white men, possibly be applicable, let's say, to Black females? So it was problematic on many levels, but again, adopted into our healthcare system, very welcomed, right? And there was only one time that it changed, and it was in 1998. And what happened in 1998, I hope I'm getting my years right, is a panel of experts were assembled to assess whether or not the BMI standards should be lowered. And despite the advice of every single expert on the panel that there was no scientific evidence to support such a change, they did so anyway. And it turned out that study was funded by two pharmaceutical companies who were trying to market weight loss drugs. So, when you really look at it, the racist roots of the BMI, the capitalist roots of the BMI, and the fact that it truly is a poor indicator of health. Many people, I'm a physical therapist, I've been a PT for almost 20 years. And, I can tell you that some of my thinnest patients were the unhealthiest, the sickest, and some of my heaviest patients were the healthiest. It really is not an accurate measure. And when you realize that we're all being, measured against a standard that's unfair, as well as just inaccurate, it really starts to, you really start to look deeper as where is this coming from, and is this really health promoting? And so what do we use the BMI for? So we've already established the BMI is a poor indicator of health. It's not applicable to anyone besides white European males. And why do we use this, this measurement? To prescribe weight loss, right? Because anybody who falls within, that 25 to 30 supposedly is normal weight, and anyone who falls below is underweight, and anyone who falls below is overweight, okay? Let's just establish that this baffles my mind. In nature, right? We can accept that there's all different kinds of dog breeds, and there's all different kinds of trees, and there are all different kinds of flowers, and we look at the beauty of the diversity. But somehow when it comes to human bodies, we're all supposed to look exactly the same. Where does that come from? Right? My answer is white supremacy and patriarchy. These standards that are imposed upon us have nothing to do with our health and everything to do with how we look. And the diet industry, which is a $72 billion industry last I saw, profits off of the insecurities of those of us who fall prey to diet culture. And falling prey to diet culture is like telling a fish they fell prey to water. I mean, it's impossible, especially in the United States, to even have a conversation casually without hearing some snippet of what someone's eating, whether it's good or bad, or, oh, I'm so bad for eating this. Oh, I feel so guilty. Oh, the diet starts Monday. Oh, I can't believe you're eating that. So much judgment around food and body size, especially now with the pandemic, and we were all stuck inside, and, some of our body has changed, and, there's a lot of shame around that. And that's a societal stigma that we've grown up with, that we've been conditioned with. It's not based in truth. So I wanted to establish just the kind of ridiculousness of, go ahead.
No. You were on a roll there, and I didn't want to interrupt you, because I think it's so important, because this is commonly talked about. We go into the fertility office, and our doctors say, oh, well, yep. We need to lose some weight before we can start with treatment. And it happens often. There was one client that I work with, and she said she was also over 35. And she came to me and she said, I think in that one appointment, my doctor called me old and fat. And I don't think you can do both in one appointment. And it's just something that stuck with her, right? So we do talk a lot about foods, though. And I know you want to talk about intuitive eating, and I want you to define what that is. And we want to talk about the 10 principles, but there are certain foods that are typically known as fertility foods, like sunflower seeds, fruits, liver, cooked tomatoes, beans and lentils, like pineapple, specifically after a transfer. Is there any truth to it?
There very well could be. I mean, I don't want to be, present myself as a nutritional expert in any realm, but what I can tell you is, what is good for one person could kill another, literally, right? I mean, tomatoes might be great for one person, and someone might have a horrific allergy to tomatoes. So that would not be a good food for them. So intuitive eating is just that. The idea that nobody and nothing outside of your physical body can tell you what to eat, how much to eat, when to stop, when you're hungry, what it feels like to be in your body after you eat certain foods, it feels like to be in your body after you do certain exercises. And so I do want to talk a little bit more about the foundational aspects of why dieting doesn't work, because I don't feel like we've really established why dieting is actually harmful to health. Okay. So as I said, the BMI is a terrible standard. We really use it to prescribe weight loss. And when you said to me, that a lot of women are denied treatment because of their BMI, there's a word for that. It's discrimination. And it's a legal form of discrimination. And it's based around this racist, patriarchal, capitalist standard that is used like as if we all have control over our weight. We don't. Here's the truth. your weight is relatively set. When you are born, you're born with a genetic code that tells you your hair color, your eye color, your foot size, your height. Your body size is no different. If the difference is it's a set point range. It's not a single weight, but it's usually about a 20-pound range in which your body feels its best. Your body establishes what's called homeostasis. And the process of dieting, what happens is when we remember, famines were a thing in history, right? There is a long history of humans not having enough food. So biologically, when we start eating less than our bodies are asking for, our bodies don't understand that we are doing this supposedly for our health and to lose weight. Our bodies perceive this as starvation. So your body's giving you a signal to eat. You're saying, no, body, we're not eating right now because we're trying to lose weight and we're being good and we're, drinking water instead of eating or whatever diet trick you've found. And your body goes into full-fledged panic mode. So yes, as you restrict the calories and spend more calories exercising, you will initially lose weight, right? That your body has no choice, calories in, calories out, there will drop some initial weight. But as soon as the diet is over, as soon as the person, goes into maintenance phase or, whatever you want to call it, the body makes it its number one priority to regain that weight. And it is successful 98% of the time. Over 3 to 5 years, all dieters will regain the weight and 2/3 of dieters will regain more because the body's like, oh no, there was a famine. That was scary. Luckily we're eating again, but who knows? Let's raise that set point, guys. Let's get in here and let's make sure that we don't let this person go below a certain weight now because that could be really dangerous to our health. Because the body is intuitive and the body knows the body isn't fat phobic, our culture is. So the body can put on weight and know this is good for your health. It's the person and the culture that freak out. And we don't listen to our bodies. The vast majority of us do not listen to the signals that our bodies are giving us.
What are some of the signals? What are the signals?
So, when you've I dieted for 20 years, so I don't want to pretend like I'm above this. The reason I came to this was because of the school of hard knocks, right? For 20 years as a physical therapist, as somebody, well, it started before I became a PT, but unfortunately I learned this all in physical therapy school as if this was fact. I prescribe this to my clients along with me going to Weight Watchers. Hey, let's do this together kind of thing, because I had a family history of, diabetes and other things, that I associated very specifically with body weight. And so, I fell down this rabbit hole for over 20 years. And I'll tell you, after 20 years, dieting doesn't work at all. I was actually, after my second baby, on a combination of Weight Watchers and Nutrisystem because I was going to be in a wedding and I gained weight. I actually gained weight on that combination. So, so it doesn't work at all after a while, but, in the initial years, it will work, but always temporarily. And so 98% it fails for. So those 2% of people unicorns? No, they're chronic dieters, or they have, there are people who have the willpower to fight their bodies their entire lives. And that is literally what you're doing. So you ask for some signals. So, after dieting for a long time, you might not feel hungry. Your body is like, what's the point? I'm giving her this signal. She's not following it. What's the point? But, more subtle signals of hunger might be thinking about food. If you simply are thinking about food, that's usually your body telling you, if you're out of that obsessive mode, that's usually your body telling you, hey, you're hungry. And by the time your stomach is rumbling, you've probably been ignoring those signals for hours. So, so how do we get out of this, right? So it's really, it's this fish swimming in water. This is something that all of us have been conditioned to believe. So first I would get really clear on the why. Why are you doing this? Why are you breaking up with diet culture? Because it is not easy to do that. You have to set a lot of boundaries with the people in your life, people who like to mention their concern about your weight. And this is a big problem with clients of mine, of, family members being the ones, and it comes from a place of love, and that they are very bought into these ideas, that weight and health are interrelated, and that, you cannot be fat and healthy, which is not true. And, it comes from a place of concern. But if you're telling someone that supposedly loves you over and over again, please don't bring that up again. You know what? I am actually caring for my health through this new thing called intuitive eating. So I got my health. Don't you worry about it. And if someone can't respect those boundaries, then, those are the people that, maybe you have to create distance from, or, and just keep reiterating, because you don't owe anybody an explanation about your food choices. You don't owe anybody an explanation about your body weight. It's incredibly rude to comment on someone's body, thin or fat. It's really not our place, because when you compliment someone on weight loss, what they're really hearing is like, oh, I guess I didn't look good before, or I guess somehow I'm better. And then when the weight inevitably comes back, there's a lot of shame wrapped around that. And, it's this cycle that keeps you going back to the diet binge cycle. So the answer is intuitive eating. So if you wanted to, I'm going on a roll here, but if you had any questions, or you wanted to.
I do, but I'm going to save it. So I'm writing them down. I'm going to save it because let's get in. Let's do a deep dive.
Okay. All right. So the book, this is the most recent copy of it. This is the 4th edition. This was written in 1995 by these two women, Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. And in 1995, they had been dietitians for 10 years. So in 1985, they learned how to prescribe dieting to all their clients. And for 10 years, they had clients coming to them earnestly wanting to lose weight for their health. And they, gave them all the diets, and they helped them. And, many of their clients had success. And then over the next few years, each and every single one of them kept coming back. I'm such a failure. I've gained all this weight back. It's my fault. And for the first time, these women started to say, maybe it's not the people, maybe it's the process. And they started to really research why this wasn't working. And there, foundationally, there's now over 125 studies that validate the findings of intuitive eating, which is that if you take the focus off of weight loss and you put the focus into improving your relationship with food, improving your relationship with movement, improving your relationship with your body, how you speak about your body, putting boundaries around diet culture, learning about diet culture. If you call yourself if you care about social justice, you have to put diet culture on your list, because truly this is how we perpetuate racism in our society. Maternal, with this on this topic, maternal mortality rates for Black women are horrific in the United States. And, people are scratching their heads. Well, we have a measurement that we're calling the gold standard for health that doesn't serve them at all, and is used as a basis of discrimination against care, against quality health care. So, it's truly unjust. And so once you start, understanding that diet culture is a thing, and that these phrases that you commonly hear. I remember going to a birthday party long after I started intuitively eating in 2015. And I went to a birthday party a couple of years ago, and I had taken a plate of food, and I started to walk towards these women. And as soon as I got within their earshot, I heard keto and whatever. And I just literally started slowly backing away. Nope, I don't do that shit anymore. Oops, sorry. So once you identify that diet culture is a thing, and you get really clear on your why, about why this does not work for you anymore, because again, it's going to be a challenge, then you can dive into the principles of intuitive eating. However, and the authors, at least in the 4th edition, do acknowledge the limitations of intuitive eating, because, for instance, one of the principles of intuitive eating is free permission to eat, full permission, absolutely no foods on the restricted list. No foods are good or bad. They're just neutral. You're just experimenting. And that takes financial privilege. You know, it takes financial privilege to be able to go out and buy things in bulk or really, you know, buy all the foods that you're craving. So, you know, so there are absolutely, just like anything else, it's not going to work for everybody. But, you know, for those of us with the privilege, this certainly, if it's a practice, kind of like with yoga, it's not like, oh, I intuitively ate for 1 year, cool, I'm done. You know, it's a practice you do every single day. Okay, so principle number 1, reject the diet mentality. That's what we've been talking about. Sure that you understand the book will obviously and talk about in detail what diet mentality sounds like in your own head, out of the mouths of others, in our culture. It's everywhere. I mean, once you become aware of it, it's actually kind of stunning how common these conversations are and these judgments around bodies and food. And in shows, I mean, it's ruined almost every show for me, because especially shows from even 10, 15 years ago are so fat phobic. You know, the fat person's always the brunt of the joke. You know, if there is a fat character, that person's actively trying to lose weight. Like the very first scene that Chrissy Metz had in, you know, This Is Us, was her at an Overeaters Anonymous meeting. Like, it had to be a storyline about her weight. You know, and these are just things that we've inherited and called and normalized that are actually really dark when you look at the roots of them. Principle number 2, honor your hunger. Okay. We talked about that. The subtle signs of hunger, thinking about food, you know, mouth watering, you know, just those subtle signs. So when you start eating intuitively, it's helpful if you look at a hunger scale, with 0 being, you know, absolutely ravenously hungry, and 10 being so full you feel like you could throw up. And you basically want to start eating approximately when you're about a 3, which means that you're hungry enough that you're thinking about food and it's like on your mind, but you're not so hungry that you're just going to ravenously shove food.
Mindlessly
eat, right? Okay, so honoring your hunger is principle 2. Principle 3, making peace with food. So that's where we start to remove the judgments around, you know, brownies are bad and broccoli is good. Well, and we'll get to the gentle nutrition part. That's actually the last principle, and it's the last principle for a reason, because even though there might be some truth to the fact that some foods have more nutritional density, or some foods might be better for fertility treatments, for example, again, you can't paint anything with a broad brush, right? Some people might be allergic to the very thing that you're prescribing, and also it's when we put foods on a pedestal, when we say this is bad for me and I shouldn't eat it, on a psychological level, that's all you are going to want. You know, I remember when I was a kid in this computer class, and you know, like the one thing we weren't supposed to do was touch the orange button, and I obsessively thought about touching that orange button the whole year. Of course. You know, that's human nature, right? We want what we can't have. So making peace with food, very, very important part of this. Principle 4, challenging the food police. So that's that voice in your head, that judgmental voice in your head that says, don't eat that. That's bad for you. Oh, I can't believe she's eating that. You know, it's that inner asshole.
Inner critic.
Inner critic. Oh, okay. Miss not a webinar.
Inner asshole critic. Yeah.
Right, but it's that jerk, you know, that is constantly telling you, don't do that, don't eat that, eat that, move that, you're lazy for resting, whatever it is, you know, just that annoying voice in your head, challenging that. Is this even true? Is this coming from a place of truth or diet culture? Is it fact or fat phobia? You know, the answer is really important, because, you know, the beauty of intuitive eating is that once you start these principles, I must say, there's no guarantee of weight loss. You actually have to put weight loss on the back burner as a goal. If weight loss occurs, it has to be as a secondary benefit to what you're doing. Because if you put weight loss on the, you know, if weight loss is still at the forefront of your mind, even if you're not on an active diet, there's still such a thing as diet mentality where, ooh, maybe I shouldn't eat that much because maybe I'll put on some weight. And that even happened to me after I had started eating intuitively. I happened to be at, a higher weight because of my pregnancy and then gaining weight after those diets. So my body did ultimately let go of some of that weight. But anytime I would say, ooh, I've lost weight, maybe I should maintain this, instantly I'd start binging again. Instantly, I would notice those old behaviors coming back because I was having that restrictive mindset. So you can't fool your body, So it's important to know that weight loss is not guaranteed.
I think it's also really important, and I want to pull this out. We talk oftentimes about the wouldas, the couldas, the shouldas that always pop up in our minds and how we just need to catch them and be curious. And that's exactly what you're saying when it comes around to food. Just catch it and be curious and what it is that you're thinking, and the big why. I'm hearing you repeat often too, right? The big why. What's the why behind it? Is it facts or not?
Challenge, unfortunately, those of us in straight sized bodies are less likely to experience challenges from our doctors and our family members. Whereas people, the fatter the person, the more likely they're going to get significant pushback from their doctors, even, their loved ones. And it really does take arming yourself with this knowledge to the point where you can, if your doctor prescribes weight loss, you can say, can you show me one peer-reviewed study that will prove to me that this is going to work long-term? And they can't.
And that was going to be my question, was because this does happen in the doctor's office, and how do we advocate? And you just answered it right there. We advocate by saying, yes, can you tell me the why behind it? What is the study? What is the research behind it?
Put the onus back on them. And also, if you're more likely to find someone saying that they're HAES aligned. HAES stands for health at every size, a complementary model to intuitive eating. But so if you can't find a HAES aligned provider who will not talk about your weight, who understands that your weight is actually not not the conversation to be having, then you can call ahead of time and, your doctor's office ahead of time, be like, I refuse to be weighed. Is this going to be a problem? I'm going to send you some information on BMI before my appointment. Really, again, put the onus back on them, right? They're the ones who are prescribing it. Show me the why, doc. And again, they can't, so it's not a solution. Obviously, the solution is for the BMI and weight loss not to be a part of our healthcare system. But in the meantime, we can certainly challenge individual physicians. And, and there's a larger community of physicians. One I'll point out on, Instagram is Everything Endocrine, everything. And he's an endocrinologist in New York City. And he is 100% on the weight neutral, train now, and because he understands the research. So more and more you're going to see physicians and other professionals aligning with this, but for now it's still very, very common to be prescribed weight loss based on the BMI. All right, principle number 5, actually the most important principle according to the intuitive eating writers, is discover the satisfaction factor. Because if you're aiming for satisfaction, then these principles become easier, because it's not satisfying to not eat if you're not hungry, or if you're hungry, right? If you're hungry, it's not satisfying to not eat. If you're full, it's not satisfying to eat beyond that, right? It doesn't feel good. If it's not satisfying to never move your body, but it's also not satisfying to move your body in a way that feels punishing or excruciating, and that was really my thing, because I didn't have enough control around my eating. I over-exercised like a lot. I would go to the gym, and if I didn't burn 800 calories, it was like not a good day. And then I would spend my entire evenings so dehydrated with such a headache laying on the couch, and I'm calling this health. I'm like, oh, I'm healthy because I went to the gym today, and it didn't feel good in my body. I again wasn't listening to my own body telling me, this is too much. You're doing, this is not good for your health. It certainly wasn't good for my mental health, which is a part of health. They're inextricably linked. So discovering the satisfaction factor is they almost look at it like the hub of the wheel. So satisfaction's in the middle, and all the other principles feed into that. So that's
The
one
core.
of my principles, the core, exactly. All right, let's move on. So principle number 6 is feel your fullness, okay? This is a little trickier than hunger, okay? Hunger is a little easier to figure out, you know, when we are used to ignoring our body's signals. And because what happens is when you're in it's a diet binge cycle. I heard you say that in the beginning. It's a cycle, because there's the initial push of, oh, my body's not good enough, I'm above this stupid standard, or someone told me I'm fat, which is not an insult, believe it or not, it's just a descriptor. You know, people have taken back that word, yeah, I'm fat, so what? You know, it's you know, we weaponize it in our culture, and you know, it's just another example of how we've normalized what's really crappy. You know. So feeling your fullness, the authors describe this as almost like an archer trying to hit the target. You know, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time to get that exact point where you can push the plate away, knowing that you're satisfied for the next several hours, but you're not so full that you don't want to move or anything. You know, it's that feeling of feeling both light and energized, you know, is that sweet spot, but it takes a while. It takes a while. So you want to be really patient with yourself throughout this whole process.
And mindful, and give yourself permission to have some time and space to figure it out.
Absolutely. And there's the stages of intuitive eating. And the first stage is quitting dieting forever. And that might take some time. People might dabble in intuitive eating and say, oh God, I gained a few pounds. This isn't going to work for me. You know, or, you know, they're so, you know, used to the dieting, or again, so much pressure, or they don't have the privilege to intuitively eat. You know, there are a lot of reasons someone might stay in stage 1 for a while, but once you actually commit to rejecting dieting forever, that's when you can start the daily practices of intuitive eating that actually do move you towards feeling better, because diet culture cares about how you look. Intuitive eating cares about how you feel. And when you feel really good in your body, you stop giving a crap what you look like.
And I'm imagining when you're saying feeling, we're not just talking about the physical body, but the physical, the emotional, the mental, it all connects.
How it feels to be in your body. And because what started to happen to me is I was someone who staunchly believed that my weight and my worth were tied, right? If I was not a certain weight or didn't look a certain way, that I was worth less. You know, I mean, I have to say that out loud, even though it's embarrassing to say it, because I know a lot of people feel that way, and I want to normalize that. That's what our culture teaches us. Diet culture teaches us that, you know, how you look is what really matters. But when I started eating intuitively, when I really read this book and was like, wow, these women are really smart. And I relate, it was almost like they were in my head, and even though they had never met me, and they understood things about my behavior that even I didn't understand. And, you know, because you go into this cycle where you're dieting, and then you go off the cycle, and then you inevitably gain the weight back, and then you're freaking out because you're, you know, and you go back in this cycle, and it raises the set point. So actually, the more you diet, the fatter you get. How ironic. So it's important that you understand that once you've truly put the goal of weight loss on the back burner, if at all, and you really have rejected the diet mentality, and you're really doing these principles, actionable principles, really challenging the thoughts that are coming through, allowing yourself full permission to eat, all of these principles, you start to feel so much more peaceful. You know, I mean, for me, dieting, I've run workshops with women, and I say, you know, how much of your time is spent thinking about what you ate last, what you're going to eat next, your weight, your this? And for myself, I said 70%. And I usually get about that answer. For men, it's much lower. But for women, it tends to be a lot of your mental capacity is wrapped up in these meaningless numbers. And, you know, and it's not an accident, you know, I mean, back in 1980, Naomi Wolf, a feminist writer, said that dieting was I'm not going to get the quote right, but essentially, you know, the best political sedative, something like that. Because if women are constantly thinking about what we're eating, what we're not eating, what we're looking like, we don't have time to, you know, smash the patriarchy. You know, we don't have time to challenge all of these systems that are only benefiting the very few at the top. And it's real. I mean, I can't even tell you how much of my life freed up just for not caring about this stuff anymore. So, you know, yeah, it's really a piece in your overall being. And when you can achieve that at a weight that you never thought possible, it's really mind blowing. Wow, if I can feel this good at this weight, it really never was about my body, was it? Right? Because I mean, you know, no matter how much weight I lost on Weight Watchers, it was never enough. I always looked at my body critically. You know, I never once thought, oh, I've arrived at where I want to be, because it's not about your body. It's about how you think about your body. It's about how you care about your body, or how you allow other people to tell you how your body should be, you know? And it's very empowering when you take that back. Principle 7, cope with your emotions with kindness. So, you know, this is where we start to get into the realm of emotional eating, right? Because we eat for reasons, certainly, that, you know, a lot of us eat for reasons beyond hunger. And it's important to meet that with kindness, as they say, and compassion, because, you know, most of us learn these behaviors from our parents, or, you know, loved ones who were themselves dieting, or, you know, again, fish swimming in water. So we learn these behaviors as children. And as children, we really only have control over two things: what comes in and what comes out. So it's not unusual for children who are, you know, stressed, anxious, being modeled dieting, in which their parents are restricting foods that they genuinely like and want to eat freely. And, you know, emotional eating becomes very much a part of their coping. And it certainly did for me. And so it takes time to get to the root of this and start treating your body more kindly and listening to it in ways you never have, and allowing yourself to, and then ask, well, yes, I feel very stressed right now, or very bored right now. Is eating actually going to help that? Or is there something that maybe I could do something else that might actually solve my problem? And what you'll notice when you start paying attention to such things is that food tastes a lot better when you're hungry for it. Like when you're actually hungry, food tastes amazing. And when you're just eating to eat, or you're eating beyond your fullness, it really does start to dull. Those senses start to dull. So when you're mindful about that, you can start to say, you know what, I don't think I'm hungry anymore. You know what, I thought I was hungry, but I think I was just bored, or I think I'm just stressed out. And, you know, you can start to, again, improve your relationship to food, improve your relationship to yourself by giving yourself time, space, kindness, compassion to work through these issues, however long it takes. There's no finish line. Okay. This is just about you improving your relationship with you. Then number 8, respect your body. So that's where we learn not to talk crap on ourselves, right? Where we don't, make the joke before someone else has the chance to, where we treat ourselves with dignity and respect. And, you know, if you have the financial privilege, or even, you know, clothing swaps with people of similar sizes, make sure everything in your wardrobe fits you. Don't leave those aspirational pieces in your wardrobe. Don't try to fit into things that don't feel comfortable in your body. Because again, we're seeking comfort and ease and peace. Nothing feels good about having tight fabric on your stomach, or, you know, or something that you used to be able to fit into and you no longer do. Let it go. You know, clothing should fit you, not the other way around. And, you know, maybe I had to put it in the basement for a couple of years. I'm not going to lie, but at least it was in the basement, you know, and before I could say, you know what, I'm just going to let this go, you know. But that's really important. And again, a part of empowerment, you know, when you look in the mirror, you know, a lot of women think who are bigger, like, oh, if I wear baggy clothes, no one will notice, you know, people won't notice your size, and you're actually making yourself look bigger. But if you actually wear something that fits you and feels comfortable, and wow, I actually feel good in this, I look good in this, you know, that's an important part of this journey, is empowering yourself to say, you know what, I don't have to lose weight to feel a certain way. I don't have to wait until I'm thin to start my life. I can start it right now, bravely, you know, by and letting others know, as I said before, I am taking back control of my health. Thank you very much. You know, the information in this book has proven to me, empowered me to know that this really is what is best for me. So thank you, but no thank you for your input. So Number 9, movement. Feel the difference. I love that they write movement instead of exercise. As a physical therapist, exercise, you know, and an exercise, former exercise addict, that has very negative connotations for me. For a long time after I started eating intuitively, I would say at least a year, I did not enter a gym because I had such negative connotations with the gym. And, you know, just this, every time I went in there, I had this pressure, like, you know, how much I thought I had to burn and all that stuff. So, you know, moving, just feeling the difference, like joyful movement is the best way to think about it. You know, what brings you joy? Is that dancing? Is that walking? Is that playing with your kids? Is that, you know, or your nieces and nephews? Is that, you know, being on a beach or by a pool by yourself? You know, like whatever it is, well, I guess that's not movement, but yoga by the beach, and rest is an important part too. You know, rest is a big part of listening to your body. So, you know, just allowing yourself to enjoy it. Or for some people, you know, with maybe movement, you know, mobility limitations or, you know, certain conditions, maybe exercise is something you don't do for enjoyment, but again, health promoting, because you know that these exercises are helping. But it's that intentionality behind it. It's like, oh, okay, this is, let's say I'm recovering from a knee surgery. I have to do these specific exercises for my leg, but the intention is improving the mobility in your leg, not losing weight. Right? So that intentionality is really, really important around movement. And then lastly, and the reason it is last, principle 10, honor your health with gentle nutrition. And even though these principles can be taken out of order, the reason the gentle nutrition piece really should be last, because it's a very tricky balance to go from diet mentality where foods are put on a hierarchy of good or bad. And, you know, there's a lot of judgment surrounding that, versus, you know, actually honoring what feels good in your body. So, you know, for instance, like as I ate intuitively, I wound up naturally giving up coffee. I actually wound up realizing that was a big part of the problem. I was having a lot of upper GI distress, and it turned out that coffee was very much contributing to that in a way I didn't understand until I really started paying attention. I gave up alcohol for the most part because I really didn't like how it felt in my body. You know, I would take a couple of drinks and I'd be like, I don't like the way I feel. Why am I doing this? You know, I stopped eating a lot of red meats just because, you know, like certain Taco Bell my mouth loves, but my GI system does not. You know, like, I mean, and it's not a matter of I can't have Taco Bell because I don't ever restrict myself. I certainly do eat it, but, you know, then the consequences are the consequences. So, you know, it's important to have a foundation of eating intuitively before you start thinking about, okay, like the nutrition piece of it. Because again, it's a very tricky balance between diet mentality and gentle nutrition. And it's something I would recommend you have some foundation of. I mean, it can take, honestly, months and months and months to get over what's called the habituation or refeeding stage, where once you've committed to rejecting dieting forever and you allow yourself full permission to eat, I mean, full permission, you know, that's when a lot of people get very freaked out, you know, because they feel like they're out of control. But it's really important to show your body that you're not restricting anymore. So body might test you, let's say I believe it was like 3 solid weeks of like, you know, when you're dieting, like grilled chicken is the standard, right? You can't ever have fried chicken. So I swear to God, every meal, I think I ate fried chicken for like 3 weeks because my body was like, really? We can have this whenever we want? Really? And, you know, sure enough, after 3 weeks, I'm not, you know, I still love fried chicken and a salad, but it didn't become this necessity. It became like an option as opposed to like an obsession, you know? And it's important to do that with all different kinds of foods. And that process can take months. And that's when you get a lot of challenge and pushback. Oh, is this really for your health? Or is this just you having, you know, an excuse to eat everything in sight? And like, you know, again, it's not an easy path. You will get a lot of pushback. So getting really clear on your why is important so that you can go through all of these principles in your own time, on your own pace, and, you know, determining whether it works for you. For some people, you know, they'll never try it, or they'll never, you know, they'll always go back to dieting. But certainly for me and many others, this has been a path to freedom, like actually feeling really free for the first time in a way I never thought possible.
And so empowering too. And we talk about that so often, that, you know, we want to feel empowered, and we do that. And it was so interesting. So the words that I were writing down as you were speaking were empowerment, setting boundaries. So when people come at you, like setting that boundary, or like you're walking up to the group of women and they're talking the keto, the paleo, you're like, nope, I'm going to just back that off and set that boundary for myself. Advocating for yourself in your doctor's office, asking them, what's the research behind it? Why are you prescribing this weight loss for me? And letting go. And I wrote that one down when you were talking about like the clothes that don't fit me anymore, which ties directly into clearing the clutter. There's something to be said about clearing the physical clutter, the mental clutter. It's interesting how everything that you spoke to connects to that, the mind, the body, the spirit that we talk so often about in our groups. It's all related, and it can be done with the intuitive eating as you're speaking to. It's just pretty awesome.
And it's really the way we were born to eat. That's the thing you need to understand, is all babies are born intuitive eaters. We teach them diet culture. Babies are born with a natural knowing of hunger and fullness. You know, a baby pushes the breast or bottle away as soon as it's full. And, you know, it won't eat more. I know it used to drive me crazy. My younger one, he would eat like a quarter ounce. And I'd be like, really? we're gonna be starving again in 30 minutes. But, you know, he didn't want any more than that at that time. And, you know, that was him being very, very intuitive. And I think that's probably one of the things I'm proudest of as a mom, that, you know, because when my older son was born 10 years ago, I was very much in diet culture, as was his dad. And then after my second birth is when I luckily, you know, I was really going to go the route of dieting again. I started to, and it wasn't working. And I was in absolute despair over that, until I had a therapist actually say to me, have you ever heard of intuitive eating? Maybe you want to give it a try. She was very gentle about it, but I cannot be more grateful that she, you know, forced me or asked me to read this book, because it absolutely changed how I viewed things on a personal level, on a professional level, and even on a social justice level. It just really blew my mind.
It's beginner's mind, really, is what it is when we're thinking about mindset. It's going back to the beginner's mind on what is our natural way to eat. And when you're saying like children are intuitive eaters, and so it's circling back to that.
And I ran these experiments in my own home. I mean, as scared as I was, my younger one, absolutely. So I found intuitive eating. He was born in 2013. I started intuitive eating in 2015. So, you know, he was young enough that he was never really exposed to it. And, you know, he would ask for ice cream. I think I gave him ice cream every day for like 2 years, and the kid hasn't asked for it since. You know, and when he would take it, you know, I'd give him this ice cream almost with trepidation. More times than not, he'd eat half of what I gave him,
and then
and then push it away, because it wasn't being restricted. It was just, oh, this is available whenever I want it. And I watched my babies, you know, maintain their intuitive eating, you know, even through the pandemic, you know, where their bodies started to grow a little bit bigger. And, you know, the little part of them was like, oh, you know, that, you know, I never, ever mentioned it to them, you know, and then sure enough, as, you know, the world started to open back up and they were able to do sports again. And because I never, you know, introduced diet culture, this idea that their bodies are bad in any way, no matter what they look like, you know, that, you know, they just kind of naturally fell back into their normal eating patterns, you know. So you really don't have to control your body, and the attempts to backfire each and every time. So it's truly a paradigm shift that's huge. But one that I can attest to personally, and then as a mom with watching my own kids maintaining their intuitive eating status because I wasn't teaching them otherwise, I am very proud of that, because I feel like I gave them a big gift that I wasn't given, and most of us, unfortunately, in our age group weren't given.
Yeah. So what is the big takeaway for the audience that's watching this today? What's the one thing that you want them to really hone in on to carry with them?
That you are the expert of your own body, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You know, nobody else is the master of your experience. You know, only you know what feels good to you. And feeling good is actually the point. You know, your body, health feels good. Let's just put it that way. Health feels good. So if you're on the dieting train and you're exercising like crazy and just to maintain a certain weight, and you don't feel good, be curious about that. Because maybe it has nothing to do, maybe you're actually doing things that are making your body feel worse and calling it health. So that's the takeaway, is don't let anybody tell you what feels good to you. And you know, if you have the ability or the interest, read this book, get more of a foundational understanding about the science behind it, the why behind it. If you're someone who considers yourself a science buff, you're going to want to read this book, because there's a lot that's going to kind of blow your mind as to what we believe we're doing is good for our health. And, you know, really what we're doing is feeding into beauty standards, beauty standards that really have nothing to do with our health and everything to do with draining our wallets because of our insecurities. So,
and when you say be the expert on you, this goes way beyond food.
Oh,
this is also when we're on our family building journey, you are the expert on you. Don't let your doctor tell you otherwise. You're the one that needs to go in there and advocate for yourself and your journey and your family always. So beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, I said I started with intuitive eating and truly became intuitive living.
I can totally understand that. And that's a beautiful statement. Intuitive living. Mind living. It's excellent. So Kat, how can people find you? Where can we learn more about you, what you offer?
Sure. You can find me on my website, www.chs, that stands for Compassionate Healing Services, yoga.com, chsyoga.com. I'm on Instagram, The Feminist Yogi. There's an underscore between the and feminist, and then feminist and yogi. My email is Kathleen, Kathleen, at chsyoga.com. I offer a variety of services, so please check me out. And it's been such a pleasure.
Oh, no, it's been a pleasure on my end as well. Thank you so much. And I will have your links to everything. It's already up on our resources page at Ginger Beginnings, and I will put it up in the follow-up email and with the recording as well.